Hello everyone, welcome to Serverless Learning Plan. Today is the third and final part of our series. In this part, we will integrate our frontend and backend with API Gateway. API Gateway is a service which serves API calls to your backend application. As our frontend is with basic HTML, which needs to call backend Lambda to insert and view the data from DynamoDB. This is the reason we have used API Gateway. Now please check out my previous video of frontend where we have set up the dynamic website with S3 and CloudFront. Also, I have another video where we have set up our backend with Lambda and DynamoDB. Please go through them if you want to have a full understanding of how things are integrated. We will also test our overall application here in this video. If you are new to this channel, kindly like, share, subscribe, give your comments in the comment section. Let me know in which area you need to learn more. So let's go and build our whole serverless integration. So in our last part here, we are going to spin up one API gateway. And this API gateway will integrate our frontend, this part, and our backend, this part. And within this, between two, our backend and frontend, API gateway resides. So API gateway is an API management tool that sits between a client and a collection of backend services. And what it does, it actually serves the request from backend to our client. So again, if you have not seen the two other videos of frontend and backend, please go watch them in this learning series that is in their playlist already. And you will be familiar that we have already set up our frontend and our backend. In our frontend, we have CloudFront distribution, which is actually serving this website from S3. And in our backend, we have two Lambda functions, which is serving the DynamoDB data. One is for inserting the data and one is for showing the data. Today, in this API gateway, we will call this two Lambda function. So whenever user will request from this website to view the data, API gateway will call this getRequest Lambda function. And whenever user will try to insert some data, then API gateway will call this insert employee Lambda function and it will insert the data into DynamoDB table. So let's go in our management console and spin up this API gateway and configure the Lambda and test the whole application there. So here is my API gateway console. You can search with API gateway and it will give you the same console. If you click on this one, you will come here. So I have one API gateway already there. So let's not go inside of it. This is for another project. So I will create one API gateway from scratch. So to create that, I have clicked on this create API, and here you can create lots of API gateway like for HTTP request, for WebSocket API, for REST API, and for REST API private. So we can create this REST API, which is very simple. And we will be doing it with age optimized because we will be using a CloudFront. REST API private is kind of if you want your API gateway to be in private in a VPC. We will not do that. We will go ahead with this REST API. So to create that, we have to click on build and then we will select REST, and this is a new API. And I will give my API name is employee. So this is my API gateway name. And description I will not give anything, and end type I will select as age optimized. Age optimized is because an age optimized API endpoint is based for geographically distributed clients. So API requests are routed to the nearest CloudFront point of presence, and this is the default endpoint type for API gateways in REST APIs. So as we are using CloudFront here, as we are using our CloudFront distribution in our static website or in our frontend, so we will make this as age optimized. You can also select regional, no problem, but I will do it with age optimized. Now I will click on this create API. So when I click on this create API, my API gateway is done. So if you go into dashboard here, so this is my API gateway URL. Now here you can see that our domain name is inside AmazonAWS.com. So in API gateway, there is a concept called CORS. So if you go to resources, you will be able to see here enable CORS. So we need the CORS enabled to be enabled. Why?
because of one reason. So let me first tell you why we don't need that. Why we would not have needed that if we have done it in plain and simple S3 bucket. So if we have done it in plain and simple S3 and S3 is calling this API gateway without this CloudFront, then it would have worked because S3 has a URL. S3 is under Amazon AWS.com domain. I cannot show you here because I have disabled the static website hosting. So S3 actually in Amazon S3, Amazon AWS.com in domain. But in CloudFront, if we see here the distribution domain name, the distribution domain name is cloudfront.net. So what it is actually doing, whenever user will be requesting via CloudFront, cloudfront.net will try to access API gateway.amazonaws.com. Here we have seen in our dashboard amazonaws.com. So cloudfront.net will try to invoke amazonaws.com, which is a cross origin reference. So for that cross origin reference, we always need to invoke or we need to enable this CORS. We will do that. So we will do it after we create the methods and then we will enable the CORS. So CORS is very much important. So if you don't enable CORS in your API, you cannot invoke your API gateway from other origins, like from your local host. From your local host, if you are trying to access any kind of other API for testing and that API is not enabled CORS, then you cannot even invoke your local host that particular API from your local host. So this CORS is very important. We need to enable this CORS. So this is what I wanted to show you. And also one more thing here is that this is one undefined. That means I have not described the stage yet. So the stage is undefined. This is fine. So what we can do here in this API gateway. So if you don't know what API gateway is, please let me know in the comment section. Maybe I can describe what API gateway in a different video. But in this video, I assume that you already have an idea about what API gateway is and how to use this one. Okay, so in the API gateway, we go to actions, and in the image, if you see here, we have created this API gateway, but we have not linked it to the Lambda functions. So we have to link it. So what we can do, from the actions, we have to click create method. So we have to create method. What method we have to create? So we have to create two methods, one for get request and one for post request. And for get request, my Lambda is different. For post request, my Lambda is different. So in this section, I will select get, and for get, let me show here. And for get, I will select the integration type as Lambda function. And then the Lambda region is EU central 1. Let me go back to the Lambda function and get employee. And this get employee function is in Frankfurt region. This is fine. And for Lambda function, if you just type in, it will come here. This is my Lambda function. So whenever user will raise a get request, it will go to this Lambda function to DynamoDB to fetch the results. Fine. Now I will save it. Now it says that you are about to give API gateway permission to invoke your Lambda functions. So this is fine. So this is okay to me. So whenever I will click OK, what it will do, it will create a Lambda policy. So if I go inside this Lambda get employee, then configuration, then permission, we see here that resource-based policy statement has been added. And if we select view policy, we see that Lambda invoke function policy has been added to this particular Lambda function from our API gateway. This is fine. So this is the resource-based policy that is added, and it is added automatically. That's fine. That's great. Now my get method is done. Now what is needed? If you see the architecture diagram here, my get method is done. What we need is the post method. We go to again this API gateway, and from actions we create method and select post. And from the post method, if we select this tick, then another Lambda function, and if we type in insert, this is coming as insert employee data. So if we go back to function, we see that insert employee data, this one. So this is my Lambda function, and I click on save. This is the same thing that API gateway needs permission to invoke Lambda function. This is a nice one. Let me show you. Before that, in the permission section, configuration permissions, if you see here right now, there is no resource-based policy added. As soon as I click on OK, it is created, and we see if we refresh this one, we see that one API gateway policy has been added. That's fine. Now, my GET request and POST request is done, and my API gateway is enabled, or API gateway has been set up. What is the next step? The next step is to deploy the API gateway. As long as you don't deploy the API gateway, it is not yet live. So we have to click deploy API, and within that we have to select one deployment stage. If you have already deployed your API gateway previously, it will show you the stage. If not, then we have to create one new stage. I will give it a name as prod, and other than that I don't give anything, and I will deploy. So my API gateway is live right now. So the last step is to enable the CORS. If I go to resources, these are the two methods that we have created, get and post. And from the actions, we just enable the CORS. We click on enable CORS, and everything as it is, and we will select enable CORS, and it will give me the information that while enabling CORS, we have to add the, so what it will do, it will create couple of header requests, it will add couple of header requests for get and post methods, and the CORS will be set up. So this is fine. So I will select yes, replace the existing value, and everything will be set up automatically. So my CORS, enable CORS is done. You see here, the invoke URL is this one. And we have seen previously that in my API gateway, this part was unassigned or something like that, undefined. But now we see that the stage name is appeared. So this is my API gateway URL. Great. Now if we copy this one, we go back to our script. This is the script. This is the Ajax script, which will be called whenever the button will be clicked. What we can do here, before this one, let us first go to our CloudFront distribution. So let us first see the architecture diagram and see what we have done so far, one by one, okay, before testing. So we have our S3 bucket. We go to S3, and this is our S3 bucket, and here profile and script, profile HTML and script.js is there, and this S3 bucket is served by CloudFront distribution. This is our CloudFront distribution. This is currently disabled, so what I will do, I will enable this one. So I have done the first video couple of days before, so I have just disabled it. Then I will enable this one. Is it still deploying? So our S3 bucket is there, and S3 bucket is serving the traffic this cloud from this CloudFront, and now we have to point from this S3 bucket to this API gateway, which we will do here. Then we have this Lambda to Lambda function. What we go here, and we see that we have this to Lambda function, and this to Lambda function is pointing to one DynamoDB. If we go here, we see that we have this DynamoDB table, or are in Frankfurt region. Now, as we have selected this URL, we go to our script and paste here this URL. This is my API gateway URL. This is my script. What we will do here is we will upload this script.js in our S3 bucket again. We have to do that. So we go back again in our S3 bucket. This is profile.html, fine. This we are not changing anything, but on script we have included the API gateway. So we have to upload the script.js again. I will upload it. So this is my script.js, and I will just try to upload it now. And this one is okay. I will click on upload, and I will close this one. So my script.js is now updated. If I just refresh this one, I see that it is updated now. Now it is fine. And let's go back to CloudFront and see if it is deployed or not. So it is still deploying. So let's wait for a couple of minutes here. So I see my this one is deployed now. My CloudFront distribution is deployed now. So what we can expect is if we hit the CloudFront distribution, it will serve the traffic from S3 bucket, which will serve the data from DynamoDB. So one last check let's do if we have any data in DynamoDB table or not. Let's explore table items and run the scan. I see one item is there. Let's leave it out. Let's leave it out because we will first get this one and then we will insert it. Fine. Now, where is my CloudFront? Here is my CloudFront. I go inside this CloudFront. I copy this one and then I open a browser and then paste this one and tada. This is my website. And this website, so let's go one by one. I'm the user. I have requested the website. So the CloudFront distribution served the website from S3. So till now I am here. I did not go to API Gateway. Till now I am here. Now, if you see here, there are two buttons, Save Profile and View All Employee Profile. If we go to script, if we see here, this is the get function, View All Profile. And if I click on this Get All Profile, it will call this API Gateway. And this API Gateway in turn will call the Lambda and should serve this one from DynamoDB. Let's see. I will click on View All Employees. Let's see. So here is my data. So my employee ID is 001, first name is Alex, last name is Holt, and employee age is 34. So if we go to DynamoDB table, we see here we have only one data. Employee ID is 001, employee age 34, first name Alex, last name Holt. So we see this is fine. So that means whenever user requests this URL, so user requested this URL, it served the traffic from S3, and from S3 it went to this API gateway, and from API gateway, whenever we are clicking this get employee, it calls this Lambda function, and Lambda got the data from DynamoDB table and it showed the data. Now the similar way we will save some data into DynamoDB table. So from employee ID, let's give 2, employee name maybe ABC, last name XYZ, and employee age maybe 20. So, or maybe a legal age, right? 22. Okay. So if I click on save profile, it should go to this DynamoDB table. So let's see. If we click on save profile, it showed me that profile saved. And if we refresh this DynamoDB table, we see that another data has been added. And this is the same data that we have added. So what it happened? User requested this site and it is served from S3 API gateway. Whenever we clicked on insert employee, it went to this Lambda function and it inserted the data into DynamoDB table. And right now, if we again fetch this data, we see two data added. So one is existing one and the other one is the one that we have added recently. So this is very cool. This is a dynamic website that we have built. We can enter more data if you want. So 3, maybe another name, whatever, and the employee age maybe 30, and save the profile. And if it has selected that profile saved, if we go to DynamoDB table and we see that our profile has been saved, we again list view all the employee and we see that our employee is there. If we just maybe delete one employee from database, so we delete this employee from this database and we again check, we select this view all employee, and right now we are getting only 2 employee data because the third one is deleted. So this is what I wanted to show you, and this is what is all about the serverless application hosting. So we have hosted a dynamic website which is kind of serving traffic from CloudFront distribution, and the website is hosted into S3 bucket, which is also serving traffic, which is redirecting traffic from API gateway to 2 Lambda function. One is for post request and one is for get request, and all the data we have saved into central DynamoDB. Everything is serverless, and also we have enabled CORS to serve the traffic from Lambda function because our API gateway is in different domain rather than our CloudFront distribution. So we have to enable CORS. So this is what I wanted to show you in this particular tutorial in our whole serverless journey. So in the end, I hope you have enjoyed this video and learned the steps towards serverless. Again, if you have not watched the first two videos, kindly check them out from this playlist. Let me know if you face any difficulties in setting up those serverless website. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel for more exciting content and comment your thoughts on this. I will be back with another exciting video. Until then, take care and goodbye.